I'm Leon Charney, and this is Leon Charney Report, and I'm back. I was away on vacation, and I went up to the inauguration to see your president and mine be inaugurated and take the solemn oath to uphold the laws of the Constitution of the United States. It's an interesting oath this time. And now we're back here, and obviously I know most of you, or a lot of you, are interested in the Middle East, so who better to bring on than Lally Weymouth, our star reporter who's been with me for years. We're on 8 years. Lally's been on here. Next, Ed Koch, she holds the mantle of being on the longest, but she's in-depth. She knows everything about the Middle East, and you really want to know what's happening, and you want to tune into our show because we give it to you straight. We represent no one. Lally, welcome. Happy New Year.
Same to you,
You survived India? You went over there?
Yes, I had a wonderful trip there.
We'll talk about it later. Asa Weitzman, the president of Israel, was over there too, and he did a George Bush at the state banquet. Really got nauseous, and anyway, it's a tidbit you didn't find out in America. It only comes through us. Hebron, big deal. Bibi Netanyahu, one of your acquaintances, I won't say he's a friend, you had the first interview with him, swore on his pack of books that he would never talk to Yasser Arafat, that he would never give up the West Bank, that he would never sign an agreement without security in Hebron. Meanwhile, you have 450 settlers there banging away, screaming. They want to kill him. He talks to Arafat, he shakes his hand, he eats hummus with him, they smoke cigars. What happened?
I agree with you. I think it's quite amazing, and it's amazing that the Likud party, which always said it would never give up on an inch of the land of the land of Israel, which it considers to be the West Bank, actually gave in. And I guess Bibi, I talked to somebody in Washington, a U.S. official, and he said Bibi's become more realistic in the last 3 weeks.
Well, welcome to the world. But suppose you lived in Alaska. And Bill Clinton promised not to cede you back to Russia, and you voted for Bill Clinton, and 4 months later he cedes Alaska to Russia. How would you feel?
Well, I mean, I think we've read it in the papers, and we've seen, and we've talked to people in Israel, and we know that the settlers are very upset, and they believed when they voted for Bibi, and I know the Prime Minister quite well, and so do you, Leon, and I would have, I'm not sure, I wasn't sure whether I believed he would strike a deal or not. I thought it was 50-50.
I knew he would do it. You know why?
No.
He reads polls. He's not an idealist. He did a brilliant thing. What he did is he created a unity government without giving away anything. He took the agreement with Hebron, brought it to the Knesset, got 88 votes in favor and 17 against. He got the whole basic central part of the country together, and he didn't have to give away anything. The question is how credible he is to the people that he promised things. Did he, I mean, we know politicians are not sincere, but to the level of sincerity, that's a question. And that, I think, is going to give him a lot of trouble, because I think that basically the people support him. Now, the Cherut Party, which is only 8 right now, 8, Benny Begin walked out of the cabinet, and we admire him for that, because that's really what he felt and that's what he believes in. So there are 8 people in Cherut. They will never vote for a Hebron agreement or a Palestinian state. They're really worried and nervous about Jerusalem. A couple of weeks ago we had Ruby Rivlin on, who's a member of Knesset, and a very sensible guy, but a diehard person in his convictions that there should be no Palestinian state. Well, and Bibi is his leader. Well, now it is his leader. I understand that David Bar-Ilan, you know the name?
Of course,
he's
know him very well.
All right, the former piano player who was an advisor.
He was editor of the Jerusalem Post, and then he became advisor of Bibi.
Very hawkish.
Very.
Extremely hawkish. I understand that he had a statement saying that it's inevitable that a Palestinian state is coming. For people to hear this who voted for Likud, this is a tremendous change. And I don't know. Now, another interesting thing that happened, in my opinion, Wally, is this could have never happened if you didn't have the direct election of Prime Minister, because he's in there for 4 years.
But don't you think that Netanyahu is looking down the road to the next election already?
Absolutely. He's a poll taker.
Exactly. And that what he, like Bill Clinton,
he took
is
the
thinking
same
about...
vitamins as Bill Clinton.
Exactly. And he's thinking about what is going to get me reelected in 4 years.
Right.
And you know, if he has beliefs, and I would have said, knowing him quite well, I would have said that he does have core beliefs, and I would have said those beliefs were not to give away the West Bank. I would have said he was quite reluctant to do so, but he must. But he's a politician first and foremost.
But he did it wrong. You know why?
No, why?
If he was going to do it, when he came into office, 24 hours after he came into office, he called up Yasser Arafat and said, look, let's talk. Instead, he came off like a strong man, a tough guy. We went through that tunnel experience where a lot of people were killed on both sides. And what he did is he established Arafat as a leader in the world because he got sympathy. And then the pressure started to come at Bibi and had to cave in. Had he done it in the beginning, he would not have had that pressure.
You know, I think that's a legitimate point, but as you pointed out yourself, he ran on a platform that I will not do this.
Right.
So it would have been very hard for him to turn right around and do it immediately, although I think your point is very well taken.
Do you know how many liberal Democrats I met at the Chicago convention who couldn't believe that Bill Clinton signed the welfare bill? I mean, I talked to Charlie Rangel, Carol Maloney, Jerry Nadler, Chuck Schumer, you name them. They were going crazy, but they swallowed it. They had to swallow it.
I can't believe that he wouldn't sign the welfare bill. So.
The last time we saw each other was at the Republican convention in August.
Right.
What happened to Bob Dole?
Well, he ran in a very unsuccessful campaign. And,
well, that's obvious, but why? His handlers?
Well, I don't think you can ever blame the candidate's handlers in the end. In the end, I think you have to say it was the candidate, and Bob Dole wasn't right. And probably some of the things the Republican Party stands for at present, like pro-life, are just very unsuccessful with the majority of the American people. And probably the Republican Party is going to have to change a little bit and get more of a Christie Whitman, more of a Rudy Giuliani to be its leader.
But can they do that with the conservative group and
That's the big
Reeds?
question.
I mean, how can they do that?
Well, the person I was most impressed by at the Republican convention last summer was Ralph Reed. He struck me as
Head of the Christian Coalition.
Right.
Right.
And he struck me, Leon, as a very pragmatic guy. And, of course, he has core convictions and so on and so forth. But he struck me as somebody that maybe you can make a deal with.
So he might be another Bibi.
I think he might.
He might take the whole conservative religious right and convert them to Orthodox Jews and settle them on the West Bank.
Well, I think Republicans want to win. They don't want to see they don't want to be sitting around watching Al Gore being sworn in 4 years from now.
Is he our next president?
Well, he's going to be the next Democratic front runner, I would say, wouldn't you?
I would say, based upon how he behaves now, that probably true, except if Clinton gets into trouble and they find out that when he went to a church or a mosque in California, he wasn't really there to do the Macarena, but he was handing out a couple of dollars to collect it back for the campaign, so you might have an issue there, and he could get burnt on that. And I think Gephardt is waiting in the wings, really, to burn this guy. And even little Bill Bradley hustling around a little bit, you know. He looks like the Rhodes Scholar, but he's always shadow boxing. You always find him around. So I think today, Al Gore is the front runner, but you don't know what will happen.
No, you don't, but I'd be very surprised if one of those other gentlemen came forward.
Let's go back to the Middle East for a minute, because it's fascinating. Ehud Barak, soldier, big IDF Macher, you know. He took over the party, basically. Shimon Peres, in title, is the chairman of the party, but he won a lot of infighting deals, and he's the boss. Ramon collapsed. There were two people running against him, Sneh and Yossi Beilin, your friend.
Yeah.
So Barak is really the leader? No one can beat him, huh?
I think Barak is terrific, and speaking as an American, he impresses me a great deal, and I've known him for many years. Since he was, Ehud Barak was Chief of Military Intelligence, then Chief of Staff of the
most decorated Israeli soldier.
Israeli Defense Forces.
We interviewed him. He dressed up like a woman to go to Lebanon to do a couple of commando raids. So
he's a very, very courageous man, and he's also very, very charming and very impressive. And I would say you can't resist him, but.
I can, but I don't know about you. You have a problem, but
no. But I mean, I think he's very attractive to voters.
Well, he was Bibi's commander.
Yes, he was in the Army.
In the Sayeret, which is the very fancy brigade of guys who go undercover, commandos. And Bibi was in his unit. We interviewed Barak about it, and Barak is definitely running, and he's planning right now. And if you have a direct election, Barak versus Bibi, it's going to be very interesting in Israel.
Yes, it will.
But
absolutely.
The question is, what happens in the next 4 years? How far does Bibi go? Arafat immediately announced, after they had the deal with Hebron, that Jerusalem is the capital of Palestine and there will be a Palestinian state. You think the digestion in the gallbladder of Bibi was very good that night?
No, I don't. And this is what I heard from Israelis. I understand that there are 3 zones in the West Bank, and that Zone A, B, and C.
Right.
And that it's relatively easy for the Israeli Defense Forces to reoccupy Zone B and C, which are the larger parts of the West Bank. And if Arafat continues to persist and push Bibi Netanyahu, he could end up as the mayor of 8 cities. And I think he should think about that.
But don't you think it's really the United States that's pulling the levers here? Don't you think Bill Clinton was pretty angry at Bibi, and once the election was over for him, he was able to take his club out and say, you know, Bibi, don't mess around with me. And I'm sure he called up Yasser Arafat and said, look, 5 years ago you were a terrorist with a schmata on you. Don't think you're the greatest statesman in the world. You guys get together and make an agreement. And Dennis Ross became a hero, and he'll get a book for $500,000, and everybody goes home except the people who gave up land. And they're really sincere about it. Now, we don't defend him and we don't oppose him. And basically, Elliot Rose is my producer. He's fascinated by peace, and he asked me to show this on television. This was an ad in the New York Times, but the people who put the ad in, it's the Ministry of Tourism, the State of Israel, Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities, Kingdom of Jordan, and Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities, Palestinian Authority.
Really?
So de facto, are they not a state? Why can't Arafat declare a state tomorrow?
He can't. But I told you there's certain drawbacks. I told you.
Well, you read the New York Post sometimes, right?
Yes, I do.
The New York Post had a column that said that Bibi had a secret plan in the event that Arafat was going to declare a state, and written by that Nobel laureate writer Uri Dan, another friend of yours.
Yes.
So, what do you think happens? Yasser Arafat goes out and he says, we are a state. Austria seconds the motion. They recognize him. Sweden recognizes him. What's to stop him from being a state? He's got a territory.
I told you what's to stop them. The IDF reoccupies Zone B and C.
You think the United...
And he's left with 8 cities to be as his independent state. Now, I don't think that's very smart. And Arafat...
you're saying that's the plan? That if he
I'm not saying that's a plan, but I understand.
All right, if he went, that's interesting. You say if he goes beyond A and he goes to B and C, that he really will be left with only 8 cities, and that's it?
Sure.
And the Gaza Strip.
Well, they say that it's very easy for the IDF to reoccupy zones.
It's very
B and
easy
C.
physically, no question. Do you think the world would stand by for that?
I think it would be very tough for the. I think that nobody has said you have an independent Palestinian state. No one has authorized Yasser Arafat to have an independent Palestinian state.
But Lally,
they've said now you're going to enter into permanent status talks, which are going to start now and end, I believe, in 1999, if I'm correct.
Right.
And I believe that the permanent status, borders, refugees, water, are to be determined in those talks.
And Jerusalem.
Correct.
Okay. So comes the year 1999, and Arafat says, you know what, I settle for everything you tell me. Whatever you tell me is good. I now declare a state.
That's trickier. 1999, you've got a trickier point.
So you want to come back in 2 years and we'll discuss it?
Yeah, I think we'll discuss it in 2 years.
All right, we're going to hold for a commercial break. We'll come back with Lally Weymouth, one of our favorite columnists from the Washington Post, who's been to India. If India fascinates you, we'll get into that, but we think we got to drop the Middle East a little bit more because we give you stuff that no one else can give you. We'll be right back. We're back. We're talking with Lally Weymouth, the star Washington Post columnist who travels all around the world, gets exclusive interviews with Assad, Hussein, Arafat. Remember, you weren't too crazy about Arafat. By the way, he fixed up his waiting room. I hear it's real classy. And he bought real furniture, nice rugs. So when you come in there, it's much nicer than it was before.
Glad to hear it.
Before, you got a little dish of hummus and a Diet Sprite on the rug, you know. No.
We didn't get that much.
Now it looks a little bit better. Anyway, yeah. And I understand that they're building a nice hotel down there in the Gaza. Really, it's a beautiful beach. So, Lally, Hebron is the progenitor of Jerusalem and the whole West Bank going to the Palestinians. What's your projection? It's the
Well,
beginning?
I think it's very significant because for the first time you have the Likud party joining the Labor Party in agreeing that they will redeploy from Hebron and then 3 further areas. Now, as you know, Leon, the Americans gave the Israelis a big concession, which was that the Israelis can determine the size of those 3 further areas. And
You brought up a tremendous point, which I forgot. You know, under the Hebron Agreement, the United States gave a guarantee to the Palestinians that the redeployment would take place in '98.
No. The first deployment is to take place in March, this March.
But the complete...
The final one is to take place in '98.
Right.
But what the Americans gave to Israel was that they said that Israel could determine the size, whether it's 1 mile or 100 miles, of the land that was redeployed, which is a very significant concession to Israel.
But on the other hand, America's guaranteeing to the Palestinians at the time, which is a very big issue.
Well, they're
And if you know-
guaranteeing there will be 3 further
Right.
deployments.
And if you knew
but
you'd
under
suck-
Oslo, there were to be these redeployments.
I know, but was never guaranteed by the United States.
Okay.
Shamir, one of the great things about Yitzhak Shamir, the former prime minister, was stagnation. He wanted to draw things out all the time.
But he didn't agree, as Benjamin Netanyahu did, as he pointed out. He didn't agree to go to continue the framework of Oslo.
Shamir,
No, right.
or Bibi.
No, Bibi agreed to,
Bibi
but
do,
Shamir
yeah.
never.
No, Shamir said he should void the agreement. He said on my show,
Yeah.
absolutely void the agreements. Now,
Also, I've been to Hebron. Have you ever been to Hebron?
yeah, of course.
I think that any of our viewers who've been to Hebron, no matter what their sentiments may be in favor of the settlers, must admit that it was an extraordinary effort for the Israeli Defense Forces to deploy forces all over the rooftops and everywhere you could look to protect the 400 settlers that live in Hebron. Because when I went to Hebron, I had no idea what to expect. I thought it would be like Beirut, but it wasn't. There was an Arab house here, then a Jewish house, then an Arab house. And so you had soldiers all over the place, on the roofs, here, there. You had really a huge deployment of soldiers to protect a mere 400 people who were not clustered together in a specific zone. So it was a very, very difficult situation. And when you go there, I think you wondered if the settlers might not have taken some consideration of the larger part of the country.
Well, what do you think? They did? I don't think so. Obviously they didn't, but they think they're standard bearers for Israel and its biblical heritage, etc.
I understand that. I understand their point of view, but right outside, as you know, is a settlement.
Kiryat Arba.
Where there's a whole park to that gentleman that,
Goldstein.
yes.
Well,
You know, so it's not as if they have nowhere to go exactly. And I understand that Hebron is a sacred city, so I can understand there are many issues here at stake. But I
so
do
what would
think
you do if you were Bibi?
if I were Netanyahu,
Yeah.
I'd do exactly what he did.
Sign.
I think he did exactly the right thing, and I think it's terrific. And I think it's a great sign that he's becoming more pragmatic, and I think it's excellent for the United States.
The economy in Israel has improved since that agreement. The stock market went up. He's going to be invited to attend an economic conference. The GNP is going up, so things really look good. The difference is he has no basis now, because there is no difference basically between him and the Labour Party. What is the difference between Barak and Bibi Netanyahu? You couldn't find it. But what Barak could come in is with credibility, whereas Bibi has destroyed his credibility. So he has a political problem. And if he can restore that in the next 3-4 years, I think it's up to a guy named Bill Clinton, because he's the driving force here. What do you think about...
But Netanyahu has a lot of charm, I think, and a lot of intelligence, and a lot of sophistication. And I would not underestimate him.
I don't underestimate him, but Bob Dole had the same thing. He wound up on Saturday Night Live, you know?
No, I don't agree with you. I don't think Bob Dole has anywhere near the ability of Netanyahu to project on television, to project to an audience. I don't think they're in the same ballpark. And I'm not saying that Bob Dole may be, in fact, the greater and more impressive person.
I would agree with you and disagree with you. I think if you leave Bob Dole loose, if I interview Bob Dole here, I think he's great, and I think he's bright, and I think he's articulate, and I think he's witty. But when you bring him out to an audience to articulate his position, he's a blob. He's nothing.
But when you bring Netanyahu out, and whether you agree with his position, and I personally don't happen to agree with his positions, although I like him, he's fabulous.
But Nachum Barnea,
you have to admit it.
Nachum Barnea is a leading columnist in Israel, a good friend of yours, I'm sure.
Excellent.
Wrote a column last week, Why Bibi and Arafat Get Along Well Together. Of course, whereas Arafat and Rabin basically didn't get along because Rabin was a straight shooter, very honest guy, straight down the line. We both know that. Bibi is a wily kind of guy, and so is Arafat. So they play wily games and smoke Cuban cigars, and he said they match each other very well.
Very shrewd.
Lead article in the Yediot Ahronot.
I think we should tell our viewers that in all likelihood, the next move for Netanyahu and for Clinton in the Middle East will be to resume talks with Syria and to try to get an Israeli-Syrian peace. And as I understand from my sources in the State Department that that's already underway.
I'm sure it is.
And Netanyahu's made a few public statements already, which he's gone back and forth about. He said, yes, he would consider giving away the Golan, and his spokesman said, no, he didn't really mean it, or he qualified it.
You have any doubts that he would give back the Golan?
Well, I certainly would have had doubts. I mean, 9 months ago.
9 months ago, I'd have a doubt he'd sign an agreement with Hebron. Do you have any doubts that he'd give away the Golan Heights for peace?
Well, as you know...
Peace and security?
Well,
I have no doubts.
As you know, as the Golan was not sacred territory to the Harut Party, and so...
But it is to the Golan settlers.
It's a problem.
Of course it's a problem. We're talking hypothetically, because this is an honest show, and I'm asking you, and we'll play the tape 2 years from now, and I tell you now that Bibi Netanyahu will phrase it as follows: because it will bring us peace and security, we are giving back the Golan Heights.
I think that somebody I was talking to yesterday in Washington said something clever to me, is how many times can you go to China? You know, meaning, you know, which is a good point, I think.
Excellent.
You know, in other words, he can lead his followers, he can bring them along with the Hebron deal, but maybe it's hard for him.
Well, more importantly, Kahalani, who's in his cabinet,
is very opposed.
That's the whole party is opposed to giving back the Golan Heights. I mean, he would leave the government, and I know Kahalani. Kahalani would not reverse himself that quickly. He's not a poll taker. He would leave the government, and that would hurt Bibi a little bit. But politics is very funny, and the United States has a strong game here. And if the United States thinks that this is the final peg in a comprehensive Middle East, Bibi will collapse.
But on the other hand, Rabin and Peres offered to give back the Golan.
No question.
And Assad did nothing.
Right.
So...
Well, Assad, at that time, the Palestinians weren't in play as much as they are now. And if Mubarak and Hussein and Arafat and everybody get together, then he's isolated. Where's he going? To Boris Yeltsin, and Yeltsin can't govern. I mean, where's he going?
He's going nowhere, but...
Who's going to fund him, really? Iran?
But Assad has one concern in making a deal with Israel, which is it would be wonderful for Israelis. They could drive their cars through Syria. It would be the end of the siege. They could drive to Europe. But this wouldn't be good for Hafez al-Assad.
Right.
He's a dictator.
Right.
And he doesn't want a lot of opening up. He needs, the best situation for him would be to a China situation, say an economic opening.
Again, we're going to China.
No, but an economic opening with no political opening.
Right.
But he doesn't want too much liberty, because otherwise the obvious result would be the end of his regime, I would suppose.
That is true, except that with high tech now and television and the bird going over and satelliting everybody, those types of dictatorships don't live very long. I remember we were at the Madrid conference, peace conference. Were you there, Lally? I don't remember.
No, I didn't go.
We met this Syrian woman who was the press officer. A very charming, interesting type of lady. And you could see that she was westernized to the point that, what do we need all this for? Why don't we really sit down and have peace? So basically, the younger population, they're human beings. They don't want to die in wars. They don't want to keep these dictators. And communications and technology are so strong that it starts to overwhelm everybody. And I think that's what, ultimately, that's going to be the answer.
I hope so.
All right, tell me about Madeleine Albright. She was sworn in as Secretary of State, first woman. She appointed Pickering, Thomas Pickering, good man, as her number 2, and Stu Eisenstadt as her number 3. People in Israel think she's very, very well inclined towards Israel. You agree?
I think she's great all around, Madeleine Albright. I was in Bombay when I heard the news, and I was just thrilled. And I am not a raving Democrat, but I
noticed that.
Well, I just think she's a terrific person. She was born in Czechoslovakia. She's I think that experience.
Daughter of a diplomat.
That's right, and I think that gave her a certain sense about the world. I think she's quite anti-communist. She understands communism and what it meant. I think that she's broad-minded. I think she speaks well. I think the staff she's assembled in the State Department is really excellent, far superior to Christopher's. The appointments you've named, I think Pickering is our number 1, State Department Foreign Service career.
Ambassador to Russia, ambassador to Israel, ambassador to
the UN.
To the UN. I think to one of the Arab countries also.
And Eisenstadt is a spectacular appointment, I think.
Jimmy Carter's boy on domestic policy.
I think that's underrated.
Madeleine Albright also worked for Jimmy Carter. Do you know that?
Well, yeah, you can't blame that
on Brzezinski. Brzezinski, you remember him?
Yes, I think I admire Brzezinski.
Oh, you would. He's very strong. He could be a Republican.
Yeah, well, I think Madeleine, I hope that she'll do an excellent job.
And the fact that she's a woman or not really doesn't matter today, does it? Or is it symbolism?
No, it doesn't matter, but it's nice, I think.
All right, we're going to cut for a commercial break. We'll come back with Lally Weymouth. We're still holding you in, I guess we're trying to keep you in suspense about her trip to India, and then we'll get into a trip to India. But we had to finish up a lot of points with respect to the Middle East. It's an important subject, especially to this show. We'll be right back. We're back. We're speaking with Lally Weymouth, the Washington Post columnist who's been around the world exclusively with all the people we spoke about before. And she made her trip to India and visited with the Prime Minister. Were you there when Asa Weitzman was there? Asa Weitzman, the President of Israel, visited India, first time for a President of Israel to visit India.
I think I was there a little bit before President Weitzman.
Really?
I think so.
Well, you warmed it up for him.
Yeah, I warmed it up for him.
All right, tell us about India. It's a huge, colossal place, very important. Americans don't know that much about it.
Well, American businessmen, however, are very interested in India and in investing in India. And so as a journalist, I thought that I should learn something about India, which was quite hard. And
Why was it hard, Molly?
Well, I mean, you're going to a huge country
right,
where you've never set foot in your life, and you don't know one person. But it was really fascinating, and I learned a tremendous amount, and I came away liking the country and tremendously impressed by what they've done. The key in India is economic reforms. They started under the last Prime Minister, Rao, and the question now is, will the present government, which is a sort of leftist regime, it's kind of a coalition called the United Front, made up of about 13 parties. And the question is, will they be able to continue the reforms begun by Rao? And officials will tell you yes, non-officials will tell you they're not really moving at the pace they need to move in order that India get the rate of growth it needs to get. And obviously, Indians secretly, I think, hope to be able to compete with China as a great marketplace. It has an enormous middle class. I must say its prime minister was extraordinary is the only word I can use to describe him.
Why? In what respect?
Well, I've just never seen, I've interviewed, as you know, a lot of prime ministers all over the world. And I had the Newsweek correspondent with me, so we went in, and usually these things are fairly formal and fairly set. And but in this case, there was Prime Minister Gowda, and he was a local politician from the south of India who never expected to be prime minister. But when the BJP could not form a government, which is the Hindu nationalist party that really won the majority of the votes in the last election, finally the United Front emerged, and he emerged unexpectedly as prime minister. And he's sitting there in these white robes with bare feet. And so I said, well, how are you, Mr. Prime Minister? And he said, well, I'm very busy. And I said, well, I can understand that. And then he said, so here's my schedule. And he held it up like this. And I said...
With his hands or his feet?
No, with his hand. He had it typed up, you know, next to him. And he basically wanted to kick us out of the room. And so I started screaming about, you know, you can't do this to Newsweek and the Washington Post. I was there doing an interview with him, you know.
Right.
And so there was a sort of very tense 10 minutes when it was sort of going back and forth while the guy with the bare feet, you know, the prime minister, debated whether he was going to kick us out of the room or not. And it was really, I think I've interviewed prime ministers really all over Asia, all over the Middle East.
Right.
Even Saddam Hussein never tried this.
So what was his gig? What was he trying to do? He was too busy?
No, I met an industrialist later up in the north, and I told him the story, and he was laughing his head off. Well, everyone I met asked me, did the Prime Minister sleep when you interviewed him? And apparently, the week after I left, a magazine article came out with a picture of him sleeping on the cover.
How old is he?
64.
All right, so you finally got your interview with him.
I finally got my interview.
Was he dynamic?
He wasn't dynamic, but the interview was adequately interesting.
Adequately interesting.
Well, it was interesting especially because I thought his views were especially naive about the Chinese. The Chinese leader had just been there to visit India for the first time. And he seemed completely swept away. And he thought that he charmed the Chinese president and that China would sell no more arms to Pakistan.
He told you that?
Yes, which I thought was totally astounding.
He should have slept.
Well, I told you I met a businessman in the north, and he asked me how did your interview go, so I told him about the situation. And he said, oh.
All right, but you know one thing, India has atomic energy. They have the ability to do bombs. You can't discount them. I think we Americans don't know enough about that area. These are humongous
Well, that's why I
places.
went there. I mean, I think it's tremendously interesting because most of the other people I met were tremendously impressive. There's a man called, I can't pronounce his first name very well, but Manmohan Singh, who was formerly finance minister, and he's a good, possibly a candidate for the Congress Party, which has ruled India since it's
The
for
Gandhis.
years. Yeah, the Gandhis, the Nehrus. And it lost the last election largely because of it was racked by corruption. But he's a tremendously impressive and modest man, and he has a good shot of being the next prime minister.
What are the prime minister's feelings towards the United States?
Well, he's great. I mean, you know.
Do we fund them a lot of money? Do you know?
Do we fund India a lot of money? I don't think that's really, it's not our aid to India. What we really want to see, what I think is really important to see develop is the Indian rate of growth.
Right.
Privatization. You know, it was a socialist economy, and we want to see it become...
Well, the population is how much now?
Oh, it's huge. It's just enormous.
Right.
But it has a middle class, I think, of about 200 million.
A lot of poverty.
Yes, it does have a lot of poverty. It does. But at the same time, it has a lot of talent.
And there's still a lot of tension with Pakistan, too, right?
That's also true.
All the time.
And allegedly tension with China, although the Prime Minister was busy telling me that situation was fixed. But they're busy making missiles to defend themselves against China. Really, not more than Pakistan. They consider China an even bigger threat. The foreign minister told me.
Did you get American television there in the hotel? CNN?
Yeah. Yeah.
Ted Turner will be happy about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was interesting. It was something new.
It was more than interesting. It was fascinating. The people I met were wonderful. They really were. They were impressive. They were nice.
At one time was an ambassador in India. Your friend, Senator Moynihan.
Well, now we have an absolutely spectacular ambassador, but I'm prejudiced because he's an old friend of mine called Frank Wisner. And he's one of our top career diplomats. And he's been there for about 3 years, and everyone absolutely loves him.
Is he coming home now, or he stays?
Yeah, he'll come home. Well, he'll come home or go to a new job this summer.
And do they know who the new ambassador? That's an important job, by the way, the ambassador.
It's a very important job. And there are rumors that President Clinton is going to visit India soon.
Well, then we'll go with him. We'll join him.
I'm telling you, it's a fascinating
really?
country.
I'll got to convince Elliot Rose to come with me. You know Elliot. Yeah. He's the producer here. Lost a lot of weight, by the way.
And Bombay is the business capital. And so I went up to see a lot of businessmen in Bombay. It was
there's a lot of Weitzman told me that Israel is now doing a tremendous amount of trade with India. There's a lot of Israeli business going on, and it is very successful there.
I'm sure.
But the question is militarily, how do we stop all these people from throwing these bombs around? Mm-hmm. That's really the problem. Mm-hmm. That's why you need non-proliferation treaties, and hopefully.
That's true.
I mean, it's. We don't understand it over here, but there are a lot of people. I mean, look, during the scudding, we thought that there might have been radioactive material in the scuds.
No,
so
that's true.
It's really frightening.
So, I think that's true.
All right, so if you have a chance, go to India and check it out. But we tell you from our sources that it's an area we really have to study very strongly. Lally, what's going on in America that makes you excited? But before we go there, you think Yeltsin will be dumped because of his illness?
What do you think, Liam?
I think 7 months out of office is a pretty long time not to be ruling a country. But I think he's got that whole place fixed, that they can't move him. I mean, you can't go left, you can't go right,
It's amazing.
Lebed was at the inauguration, and
I saw that. That was incredible.
Yeah, I saw him. I don't think he understands anything, except I swear.
He can't speak English?
He can't speak English. Huh. And he said that there's no way, he told us to a friend of mine, a newspaper man, there's no way that anybody can get elected there now because the whole place is rigged.
Huh.
So, and that's dangerous because Russia, as you know, is a very volatile place.
It is.
And the economy there, the disparagement between the rich and the poor is too strong now, and the mafia's taken over that country. And they still have a lot of atomic arsenals, and they have a lot of bad stuff also. So it's very risky for the United States.
It's also true.
By the way, question for you. In the event that Bibi Netanyahu would die or retire from office, what would happen in that country?
Well, I don't think you have to worry about him retiring.
No. It's a legal question. I asked this last night of the Consul General, Colette Avital.
What's the answer?
No one was clear, but I believe that the answer is that the senior deputy Prime Minister David Levy would take over in new elections.
I wouldn't sit on the edge of your chair for that one.
You wouldn't what?
I think Bibi's in very good health, and he's definitely not going to retire.
No, I don't say that. I was just curious how it worked.
Yeah.
Because
it's a good question.
We didn't know. All right, we got to cut for commercial break. We give you things, again, that no one else tells you. Where are you going to find this out? Larry King is going to talk about the succession of the Israeli Prime Minister. Never. Charlie Rose, he hasn't woken up yet. He's going to India. We'll be right back. We're back. We're talking with Lally Weymouth, the Washington Post, and we're reviewing the world and sort of review of 1996 and 1997 forward. We're prophesizing. We haven't gotten to prophecies yet, but we'll get there. And we've muddled the Middle East a little bit, and we hope that we've solved all the problems, which we're sure we're not. But we want to give you a better understanding. We hope that's true. And it's very tough to really achieve because everybody has his own position. And we try to be sort of illuminators and tell you what's happening. Lally, so I went to the inauguration. I'm sitting at a table, a little dinner party. On my left is Mickey Cantor, who is no more in the government, and on my right is Harold Ickes, who says to me, you know, I found out I was not a deputy chief of staff through the newspapers after 20 years of service to President Clinton. Is that a bad character mark to Mr. Clinton?
Well, it seems to be par for the course for President Clinton. I read the story about Lally Weymouth, whom I thought was an absolutely dreadful appointment. But nevertheless, she was apparently a friend of theirs, and a long-time friend of theirs. And once she didn't make the appointment, I read in a magazine, or a couple of times I've read, that he met her in the hall of the White House and said, "How are you doing, kid?" And then there's Bernie Nussbaum, the lawyer, who served as White House counsel, who really, really was so loyal to the Clintons, too loyal if you ask me, who came back here, and I don't think he's ever heard from them.
I think he could be in trouble too. I think
that's also true.
He has, you know, trying to defend them. I think he might have problems. So what does it show us, though? Is there a lack of character in this man?
Oh, well, no kidding. Well, I mean, it depends on your viewpoint. I mean, some people, obviously, the majority of the American people voted for him.
And they approve him today.
Yeah, which I mean, I really personally find absolutely astounding.
Why?
Well, because I think there is a lack of character in the man. I think it's obvious that there's a lack of character.
People don't care, but it's proven is people don't really care about character. Economics are better. Labor is good. I mean, most people are working. He's got the economy running very well. Bob Rubin.
But that's thanks to Alan Greenspan and Bob Rubin.
But the man takes the heat at the top, pays for it also. You got to give it to Clinton. It's his administration. The question is, he becomes a very powerful person now. He's got 4 years locked in. What does he do in the next 4 years? And what does he do in foreign policy? Where it's, you know, he was a novice in foreign policy. He got very lucky in Bosnia. It worked out for him.
Yeah.
But what's happening now with our friend Milosevic, whatever his name is, this great guy who doesn't want to leave the presidency in Bosnia?
Yeah.
What does the United States do there? It's a problem.
Well, I mean, the question from the start in Bosnia was, what national interest did the United States have in Bosnia?
My opinion,
I
none.
would say none.
None. I agree with you.
I would agree. And so, therefore, you know, then if you really believe the United States has a national interest, then perhaps you risk the lives of U.S. soldiers. But I think that it was a very cynical ploy by the Clinton administration, the Dayton Agreement, to keep the story off the news through the election.
By the way, your boyfriend, I don't mean that literally, Holbrooke, Richard Holbrooke, good friend of yours.
He's an impressive person.
He got Zippo. He got nothing. He wanted to be Secretary of State.
He did.
Was he depressed?
Well, I don't know, really. But I think Richard Holbrooke is a very, very able person.
Oh, I don't doubt it.
And I think he would be actually a very good Secretary of State one day.
Tell me, and I don't know if you know, but you hang around Washington a lot, and you hear a lot of these people talking. Why did he really appoint Madeleine Albright? Was it because of the women, of the now pressure, and the women and all that, or he really thinks she's really capable at that? We had a fellow on here named Charles Kupchan from the Council on Foreign Relations, a good man, very good. He thought that she would not be a great political thinker. She might be a great activist, but not a strategist, so to speak, like Kissinger, your friend Henry, and maybe even Brzezinski, you know? Do you feel the same, or you just think she's going to be great, period? And you think that he made that appointment on the basis of the fact that she's a woman? Your opinion.
I think that Madeleine Albright improved greatly in her performance from the start to the end at the United Nations. Now, I personally don't happen to agree with everything she did, but I thought I thought she carried herself well. I thought she executed her duties well. I thought she performed better and better in public speaking, for example. I thought she became better and better on television. And I suspect, after all, she was a member of the cabinet when she was at the UN. Holbrooke wasn't a member of the cabinet. She must have a relationship with the president, more than just being a woman.
It's a good point.
And
that's a good point.
You know,
that's a very good point.
So I'm sure there were people in Washington who were pulling for her. I'm sure there were people who were pulling for Holbrooke. But there were days of newspaper stories saying that her chances were finished, if you remember.
I do. Who do you think is the most important political personality in the United States today?
Well, I suppose you'd have to say number one, Bill Clinton, number two, Newt Gingrich.
I say Trent Lott.
Well, that's an interesting point. Why? But why?
He's clean. He's a majority leader in the Senate.
Mm-hmm.
He's stronger than Gingrich today. Gingrich is, we'll talk about that in a minute,
Mm-hmm.
but he's damaged goods. And Clinton is wavering on a lot of ethical problems, Filegate, Memorygate, Paula Jones. Trent Lott is the only guy who's clean, and he has the Congress with him. Don't forget, he controls the Senate and de facto the House. These people who, guys like Jim Leach, and who voted against Newt Gingrich.
But I don't think you can say that Trent Lott de facto controls the House. I think like a guy like John Kasich might rise up and become...
Kasich's we had him on our show at the convention.
He's very attractive, didn't you think?
He just got married.
John Kasich, for our listeners who don't know who he is
Budget Committee, Ohio.
Is a congressman. And he's a star.
Everybody knows him because when the government shut down, he was on television all the time.
Right.
All right, so Lally is wrapping up with us. She's beginning our first live interview in the year of 1997. And she thinks that A, Beebe did the right thing, B, Christy Whitman may be the nominee for president, or she thinks he would be good. She thinks Madeleine Albright is going to be terrific. And Madeleine made some very good appointments. And if you want to go to India, you don't have to visit the Prime Minister because he sleeps a lot. So we've learned a lot today. Will there be a Palestinian state ultimately, Lally?
Probably.
Probably. I asked that of a very high Israeli diplomat yesterday. And this person said, yes, not in 99, but maybe in the year 2000. Will Jerusalem still be the capital of Israel?
Yes, definitely.
I think so, too. But will there be a flag of a Palestinian there?
Possibly. Or a flag flying over a mosque or something.
Right. Will they have
some kind of compromise.
Will they have a post office in Jerusalem?
That's another question.
We'll see you next week. We wrap it up with Lally Weymouth. Thanks for coming on, Lally.
Thank you, Leon, for inviting me.
Always a pleasure.